Japan woke up to truly shocking news. On Sunday, September 7th, 2025, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba made a big announcement. He said he would resign from his high office. This unexpected decision sent shockwaves across Japan and even to other countries. People quickly started to ask what this meant for the nation's future. Prime Minister Ishiba's departure came after a very difficult time for his party. The Liberal Democratic Party suffered a historic and crushing loss in the recent elections. They lost many seats in both parts of the parliament. This was the most devastating election defeat in the party's 70-year history. It was also the first time since the LDP began in 1955 that they lost their majority in both houses at the same time. This event marked a massive and unprecedented change in Japanese politics. Mr. Ishiba had been in the top job for less than 1 year. His time as prime minister was short, but it saw many big political problems and changes. He chose to step down just 1 day before his own party planned a vote on his leadership. That vote could have forced him out of office anyway. When he spoke in Tokyo to announce his decision, Prime Minister Ishiba sounded emotional. He explained, "Japan has signed the trade agreement, and the president has signed the executive order. We have passed a key hurdle." He then added clearly, "I would like to pass the baton to the next generation." This meant he believed it was time for younger leaders to take over. He resigned right after finishing very important trade discussions with the United States. This trade deal was a big achievement for Japan. The timing of his resignation showed his commitment to his country's duties. However, it also highlighted the huge political pressure that made it impossible for him to continue leading. The election results simply gave him no other choice but to resign. 2. A big loss. Japan faced a very difficult election. For the first time in its long history, the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, lost its majority in both houses of parliament. This big political party had led Japan for almost 70 years, since 1955. But now it did not have enough seats to control parliament. This was a huge and surprising change for the country. The problems for the LDP began soon after Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba took office in October 2024. First, the LDP lost many seats in the lower house. This was the first time in 15 years they did not have a strong majority there. It was a clear sign of trouble for the ruling party. Then, on July 20th, 2025, came an even worse election for the upper house. The results were very bad for the LDP and its partner, Komeito. Out of 124 seats, the LDP won only 39. Komeito got only 8. With these new seats, the ruling parties had 122 seats in total, but they needed 125 for a majority in the 248-member upper house. They were 3 seats short. Many people went to vote in this election. Voter turnout was very high. nearly 59%. This was a big increase from the last election. A record 26 million people voted early. This high number of voters showed that people were very unhappy with the government. They truly wanted a change in how the country was run. This historic election loss was the final reason for Prime Minister Ishiba to resign. The public had spoken clearly through their votes. His party's big defeat meant he could no longer lead effectively. It was a major loss for him and for the LDP. 3. The Prime Minister's story. Shigeru Ishiba was a man who worked hard for many years to reach the top. He was 68 years old when he finally became Japan's prime minister. Before this, he had tried 4 times to become the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party but failed. Finally, in September 2024, his 5th attempt was successful. Many people saw Ishiba as a political outsider. He was not part of the usual powerful groups within his party. His victory was a sign that many in Japan wanted change and new ideas, moving away from old political traditions. Ishiba came from a family with a history in politics. His father had been a governor. He went to Keio University and started his career working in a bank. In 1986, at the age of 29, he was first elected to Parliament. He spent nearly 4 decades serving the country. During this time, he became well known for his deep knowledge in 2 specific fields: national defense and agriculture. He held important jobs, including being the defense minister and the Secretary General of the Liberal Democratic Party. Once he became prime minister, Ishiba faced a series of very difficult challenges. The biggest problem affecting everyday people was the rising cost of living. Prices for essential goods kept going up, which made life very hard for many Japanese families. Food prices were a particularly serious issue. For example, the price of rice, a fundamental part of the Japanese diet, doubled in less than a year. Surveys showed that almost 60% of voters were most worried about economic issues and the high cost of living. This widespread concern showed how deeply the problem was felt across the country. To try and help citizens with these economic difficulties, Prime Minister Ishiba proposed a plan. He announced that the government would give a one-time cash handout of 20,000 yen, which is about 135 US dollars, to every citizen. Children under 18 and low-income households would also receive an additional 20,000 yen. However, this plan was not popular. Many people felt it was not enough to fix the serious financial problems they faced. Only a small part of the public, around 18%, supported this cash handout policy. It was widely seen as a weak response to a very big crisis, and it did not win him public favor. 4. Big problems for the party. The ruling party, the Liberal Democratic Party, faced big problems for a long time. These problems were mostly about trust from the people. Many citizens started to lose faith in the party even before Prime Minister Ishiba began his job. The party's reputation was already getting worse. One major issue was a scandal about political money. This problem had been ongoing through 2024. Some lawmakers were involved in receiving money in ways that were not clear. Even though the party tried to change things and promised to be more open, this money scandal kept hurting their image badly. A survey showed that more than half of the voters thought about this scandal when they chose who to vote for. It made many people doubt the party's honesty. Another big problem for the party was its long-standing link to the Unification Church. This issue became very public after a former prime minister was tragically killed in 2022. It was revealed that many members of the ruling party had connections to this controversial religious group. This made people even more suspicious of the party. They wondered if the party was truly working for everyone. Prime Minister Ishiba tried hard to fix these issues. He worked to make the party better and more transparent in its operations. But his efforts, unfortunately, were not enough. For example, he appointed only 2 women to his government. Some people said this showed the party was still old-fashioned and did not want real change. Also, news spread that some party members received expensive gifts. This further damaged Ishiba's image as a reformer. In the end, the public did not trust the party again, and this hurt the party badly in the elections. These problems made it very difficult to gain back public support. 5. A deal with America. Japan faced a challenging time in its relationship with the United States. President Donald Trump's return to power had made foreign relations complex for Japan. One of the biggest problems was that America began to put high taxes, known as tariffs, on important Japanese products. These tariffs specifically targeted Japan's car industry, which is a very big part of the country's economy. The taxes were set between 25 and 27.5%. This worried major Japanese car companies like Toyota, who feared massive financial losses. Prime Minister Ishiba and his government understood this was a serious issue. They knew they had to find a solution to protect Japanese businesses. So, for many months, they worked very hard. They held long and difficult talks with the U.S. government to make a new trade agreement. These negotiations were not easy, but Ishiba made them a main focus of his government's work, trying to find common ground with the American side. Eventually, after much effort, a new trade deal was agreed upon. As part of this agreement, Japan made a big promise. It agreed to invest a huge amount of money, about $550 billion, into different projects in the United States. The U.S. government would choose these projects. Japan also agreed to buy more agricultural goods and more commercial airplanes from America. In return, the United States decided to lower its tariffs. The taxes on most Japanese goods would drop to 15%, which was a big help for Japanese companies. This new trade agreement was seen as a significant diplomatic success for Prime Minister Ishiba. It showed his skill in handling international matters and protecting Japan's economic interests under pressure. The deal was signed just a few days before Ishiba made his resignation public. President Donald Trump later commented on Ishiba's decision, saying he was a little bit surprised by the news. However, President Trump also said good things about the trade deal they had just finished. Ishiba's announcement to step down came right after this crucial agreement was finalized. He explained that by completing this important trade deal, a major task was finished, and it was time to pass leadership to the next generation. 6. New parties get stronger. The recent election brought a big shift in Japan. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party faced major losses. This was because new political parties grew much stronger. People were looking for different answers, and these new groups offered fresh ideas and a new direction for the country. One very surprising new power was Sensato. This is a newer, far-right party. Before the election, it had only 2 seats, but after the votes were counted, it gained 15 seats. Sensato quickly became popular, especially among young people. The party uses platforms like Twitter and TikTok to share its message, reaching voters aged 18 to 39 who often feel ignored by traditional politicians. Their main message is Japanese first. They talk about being against too much immigration and criticize how foreign tourism might make prices higher. They want to make sure Japanese workers are always a top priority. Another party that had good results was the Democratic Party for the People. This party is center-right and focused on economic plans that would help ordinary citizens. They suggested ways to increase how much money people take home and lower consumption taxes. These ideas were well received because many families were struggling with the rising cost of living. The party leader, Yuichiro Tamaki, had experience working in the finance ministry, which gave people more trust in his economic proposals. The success of these new parties marks a very big change for Japanese politics. For a long time, the Liberal Democratic Party was the main power, but now other voices are much louder. Sensato's rise, especially with younger voters, shows that many people want new solutions for Japan's future. This change is challenging the old ways of politics that have been around since 1945. These new forces are making Japan's political future more open and uncertain, with more diverse groups now having a say in how the country is run. 7. Money and the market. After the big political changes, Japan's money, the yen, became weaker. Its value went down in markets around the world. Investors, who put money into countries, started to worry about Japan's future. They were not sure what would happen next with the country's economy. This uncertainty made some investors sell their Japanese money. The Bank of Japan, which controls the country's money, had plans to change how it managed the economy. It wanted to slowly raise interest rates, moving away from many years of keeping rates very low. But now, these plans are not certain. Some politicians, who might become new leaders, have different ideas. They believe low interest rates are better to help the economy grow faster, even if it means more spending. Before these political problems, Japan already faced high prices for many goods. The cost of daily things, like rice, went up a lot. This made life harder for many families. People were worried about how much money they had to live on. This economic worry was a big reason why people voted for new parties and led to the political changes. Companies in Japan are now watching the situation very closely. Big business groups like the Keidanren want the government to be stable. They hope for clear economic plans that help businesses. Companies do not like uncertainty because it makes it hard to plan for the future. Many are preparing for possible new economic rules and different government support. They need to know what the future holds for their money and trade. This period of political change shows how much government decisions and stability affect the market. When leaders change and policies are unclear, it can make money lose value and businesses feel unsure. This impact is felt by both large companies and everyday people across Japan. 8. What happens next? Japan now looks to the future after Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation. This is a very important and uncertain time for the country. Many people wonder what will happen next for Japan's politics and its place in the world. This period will be a major test for Japan's strong democracy. The Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP, must choose a new leader soon. This person will likely become the next prime minister. There are several important politicians who want this top job. Sanae Takaichi is one well-known candidate. She is a strong conservative who could become Japan's first female prime minister, which would be a historic moment. She has clear ideas about the economy, suggesting that the government should spend more money to help the country grow. Shinjiro Koizumi is another possible leader. He is much younger and is the son of a famous former prime minister, giving him a familiar name. People see him as a reformer who wants new ideas for Japan. Toshimitsu Motegi, who has served as a foreign minister, brings extensive experience in international relations. Yoshimasa Hayashi, the chief cabinet secretary, represents continuity and stability. The choice of the next leader is very important for the party's direction and Japan's future. The new prime minister will face many big problems right away. The economy is a main challenge. Prices for food and other important goods are rising, which is called inflation. Families are feeling the pinch. The new leader will need to decide what to do about this and Japan's money policies from the Bank of Japan. Also, national security is a big worry. Tensions are growing with other countries in the region, especially with China and North Korea. Japan needs to decide how much to spend on defense and how to strengthen its alliances, like the one with the United States. One of the biggest difficulties for the new prime minister will be governing without a majority in parliament. This means the LDP does not have enough votes to pass laws easily on its own. The new leader will need to work very closely with other parties, or even form a coalition to get things done. This will be a hard task and could make new laws difficult and slow to pass. This whole situation is a big test for Japan's democratic system. It shows how the country's political landscape is changing, with new parties gaining power. Japan's role in the world depends on how it manages these changes at home. The world is watching closely to see what path Japan will take in these uncertain times. What do you think is the biggest problem the new Japanese Prime Minister will face?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.